sound or you're gargling. Or you were, anyway.
Okay. I came at halftime, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm enjoying some eggnog.
It's that time of year.
I love eggnog.
Berkeley Farms is my favorite so far.
What is it?
It's Berkeley Farms. It like comes in a red container, and yeah. My favorite because it's sweet. Some eggnogs aren't that sweet, so this one's sweet.
I'm trying to put the links up, but my computer is not cooperating. Come on. Oh, come on. I gotta scroll down an inch. That's all. Okay, here we go. If you guys want to talk about something, go ahead and start. You don't need me.
I was a chatterbox before we started. I'm kind of exhausted. I'm all talked out, I guess.
Okay.
I'm just enjoying my eggnog and yeah.
Dawn, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear you. If it's not one thing, it's another, you know?
If you see the boxes down here, the small one, they rang the bell, left it on the table, and walked away. The bigger box.
Still can't hear you, Dawn.
Oh no, opposite. The small one left it on the table. They rang the left it on the table, and walked away.
I'm so glad that eggnog is only one time of the year, though. So that, because
that's pretty rich.
Huh?
Pretty rich.
Well, actually, that's not my concern. My concern is I wouldn't be able to resist it. It's very fattening, so I'm glad it's just one time out of the year, and yeah.
Hey, Don, I was just reading that scripture you put there on Facebook on 1 Corinthians 3, chapter 3. You got your microphone off. Anyway, I was reading that section there, and I wonder if there's an Orientalism that I'm not or we're not aware of on this thing. If anyone builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, their work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each person's work. If it has been built, if what has been built survives, the builder will receive a reward. If it's burned up, the builder will suffer loss, yet will be saved, even though only as one escaping through the flames. I wonder if there's an Orientalism in that section there.
I've never been taught that there is, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah, I know, because if you listen to it, I mean, it's talking about physical things related to things that are spiritual. And I'm just wondering if he's saying something because if like a building burns down, the gold, silver, and costly stones will survive, but the wood, hay, or straw will get burned up. And I'm wondering if there's a deeper truth in there.
Oh,
I mean, we can see it from a spiritual point of view, obviously. And when you're doing spiritual work, and you're doing it according to the Word, and you're doing it with the love of God, you're going to get a reward out of it. Okay?
Right.
That's from a spiritual point of view. I'm looking at this from a physical point of view, wondering if there's an Orientalism behind that little bit of scripture there.
Can you hear
Yeah,
me now?
I'll be honest, I don't know.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, I can hear you now.
Yes, we can,
Kind of
Don.
soft, but I can hear you now.
It's better?
That's better.
Okay.
Better with butter. The bitter
Arcade.
batter is better with brand new butter.
Better.
Arcade.
Better. Okay.
Butter.
Ta-da! I got a crown.
Well, I don't know what the Orientalism may or may not be,
Uh,
but
there's a crown in those special effects, Monica.
I know I don't want to get those out.
Oh, why not? Come on, you look so pretty.
I really was glad to hear this. I needed to hear this.
Well, good.
Because you were talking about, well, basically, Paul was in the church, so to speak, and then he got the word in him, and now he's confronting those people who are shoveling all the other stuff, which I can relate to. So I thought that was pretty cool. So, and then another thing was you were talking about these meetings between Peter and Paul and how that would be very cool because Paul met Jesus on the road to Damascus, and then he went away to Arabia, and 3 years later he met with Peter. What a meeting. Then it says 14 years later he met with Peter again, and this time he confronted him face to face on something that I'll bet you they talked about.
Probably.
The difference between works and grace. You know, what saves a man, works or grace? Grace is what saves us. Works is where we chalk up the rewards.
Right.
But I thought that was pretty cool. And then you went on and talked about verse 16, and we've been talking about figures of speech in that one encircling figure of speech. I think there might be one right there in that verse too. Because it says, knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Jesus Christ. And then at the end of the verse it says, not by the works of the law, or let's just say right. Knowing that no man is justified by the works of the law. That's the first line of verse 16. Then the last line is, for by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. So
Yeah, could be.
looks like it could be. And if it isn't, then the symmetry in that verse is awesome because you've got those two things like bookends. And then you've got, look what's in the middle. Even we have believed in Jesus Christ that we might be justified by the faith of Christ. So we're right there in the right. We're the cream in the Oreo.
Yeah.
Double stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, I could eat those till I puke.
You know what it all comes down to? It always comes back to the heart. It's always a heart thing.
It's always a heart thing. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's David. That
You get that on a bumper sticker.
no, wait a minute. It started with Saul because Saul was so tall. It's something about God doesn't look at the outward appearance. God looks on the heart. And then it was David it was a man after God's own heart.
Yep.
I don't know if you heard.
Keep our hearts right on the word, and then we don't wander off into all that ego stuff and the law and trying to justify ourselves and all that stuff. If we keep our hearts right.
Yeah. If you go to the Revised English Version on Truth or Tradition, and you start reading the commentary, they get into a lot of this stuff about, King Saul, that was looking at the flesh. He looked like a king. He was taller than everybody. He was powerful. He was, this and the other thing. And he looked really good, but the heart was just never there. So the second choice was David, and the heart was correct with that one.
So yeah, I want that on a bumper sticker. It's a heart thing.
It's a heart
It's
thing.
a heart
It's a heart
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Put
A
a
heart
heart
thing.
right there. Yeah.
It's a matter of the heart.
A heart.
Let's see. There we go.
In my golf hat.
Yeah. My Professor Ludwig von Verdeek's hat.
Yay, Monica's wearing her crown.
Imperial butter.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
It's a butter thing. Oh my.
Yeah. Just so impressed by the fact that when it talks about the pillar, that's talking about from man's perspective. It was never from God's perspective, because I was always said it was God's perspective that these guys were the pillars of the church, and that's not it at all. These were men who were perceived by men to be the pillars. Now, Peter and John, I have no problem with, but James, I don't know. He was out there teaching, salvation by works, basically, and it just, not by grace.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting about James, the brother of Jesus, and the Apostle James. Yeah, scorecards and names and everything. They all had so many of the names are this similar.
Yeah. It's interesting. When they talk about the disciple whom Jesus loved, there is a certain group of people that James, his brother, because technically, after Jesus died, James would be the next one to be the and respond. Woman, behold thy son, son, behold thy mother.
Mm-hmm.
He may well have been talking to James, because James would have been next in line to take care of his mother.
And so many people don't even think Jesus had any brothers and sisters. They're into that he was the only child thing, you know?
Yeah, or
I don't get
they were.
that. They don't read the Bible.
Yeah.
How can you not know he had brothers and sisters? It's right in there. It's not hidden.
Well,
It's not
That would
buried in a figure of speech. It's not buried in a Oriental custom. It's just there.
I think it comes from Catholicism, you know. Then
yeah,
the brothers and sisters would have to be part God. You know, they'd be half brothers and sisters with God.
Awesome.
philosophy.
Yeah, that.
I like that.
That's a good one.
The way I've always heard that explained away is they were children by Joseph's children by a previous marriage, because Joseph was old. He died before Christ was crucified, and Mary was still alive.
I'd like to see
the
scripture and verse on chapter and verse on that one.
Absolutely.
That's what I said. Can I have a chapter and verse on that, please?
Yeah. They might be looking a long
They'll
time.
make
for
a
that.
movie out of it.
But I mean, if you're going to make things up, well, then why use the word at all?
hmm Well, they made up a lot of stuff, and I guess make up stuff about his brothers. That's no big deal. That's light compared to the other stuff that has been made
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, it's. But I mean, that's just. What really gets me is James, his brother, was outside the door when Mary came to get him and take him home because they all thought he was crazy.
hmm
Too many people think these guys were perfect
Yeah.
just because they're listed in the Bible. The only one listed in the Bible who was perfect was Jesus Christ. Anybody else fell short.
It all comes under that God's in control thing. He controlled them, and so they were perfect because he was controlling them.
Yeah, well, that and 50 cents will buy a cup of coffee some places.
Maybe.
Maybe. Depends on where you go.
Yeah,
I don't think you can buy coffee for 50 cents at
because
McDonald's.
your coffee is 50 cents or 75.
Maybe $5.
No, that's Starbucks.
What version of coffee are you talking?
Yeah, really.
I'm just a little bodega, a little grocery store that sells candy and cold soda, and they have hot coffee.
PDQ.
Yeah,
Yeah, where Seinfeld hang out.
more along the idea of a 7-Eleven rather than a Piggly Wiggly or something. Kroger's.
Tim Hortons. I think that's even in the $5 range, probably.
Yeah.
I'm a hot chocolate guy myself.
So do we know who did Jesus' sisters? He had sisters, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Did they follow along like with Mary and
I don't know. I don't think it
doesn't say much about them?
doesn't
No.
say anything about them really.
Just that they were kind of had a reputation.
Yeah. but there again said Mary. Yeah. That's really something, you know, that whole thing about Mary. Can you imagine being 14 years old and being told what she was told and knowing that everybody was going to call you a whore?
Amazing.
And she said, "Behold, the handmaiden of the Lord."
Well, you have an angel shows up in front of you and tells you that you're going to have the Son of God. Okay.
Yeah, that
That
they
helps.
had,
So,
Yeah. Yeah. For best friend from down the street came up to her and told her all that stuff. She go, I don't know, but an angel, that's got a little weight to it. She probably had those 3 months she spent with, was it Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, yeah.
yeah, spent 3 months with her.
Must have been pretty refreshing.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine the first thing that happens is she calls out Elizabeth's name and Elizabeth comes to the door and lays that prophecy on her? What that must have done for Mary?
Mm.
Probably needed it.
She probably
She
still has goosebumps. It's a goosebump moment.
Yeah. Well, has anybody got anything they want to talk about?
I got something that's off the teaching, though.
Go ahead. Hey, we're not confined. I say
Mhm.
where anything can and sometimes does happen. So go ahead.
Well, I've thought several times about Stephen and the stoning of Stephen and why that happened. You know, I guess I don't know if it's just in my mind, certain boundaries or whatever in my mind, or but I know that you know, the apostles went to jail. You know, they were in prison. They were whipped and stuff. You know, I guess I just don't understand why.
Why he got murdered?
Yeah, why was he murdered when he was
Well,
standing
I
for
call
God?
it martyred. Martyr is a little different than murder. And I have thought of those things also myself, and it is related to all of the prophets of old that were persecuted and martyred, and why it had to happen that way. And you know, I have thought about that, and I have some ideas on it. I'm almost afraid to bring them up because I'm sure somebody's going to say you're off your rocker. But I would venture to say that had they had the knowledge of the sacred secret, which we have recorded in the book of Ephesians, had they known it, they would not have prevailed in martyring him. Because I don't think they knew what they had to combat the spiritual opposition they were up against.
I don't know.
Now, that's kind of a crazy thought, but
I don't think that's so far out, really. I think that's.
I don't know, because there's still pure evil in this world, and pure evil wants to do one thing: destroy the knowledge of Jesus Christ. And I'm actually not so. I'm surprised more people hadn't at this point been killed at that point.
Actually, I think they're trying. I honestly,
Nowadays,
yeah, I think that, and I'll believe a lot of them are in the middle of that ISIS type of stuff going on.
yeah.
And the target is not so much a government to government. The target from a spiritual point of view is the truth. And they're trying to destroy or subvert the truth. And that's what they did to Stephen, because Stephen had grown so rapidly and became so strong in the spirit. From a spiritual point of view, the opposition was targeting Stephen because he was full of the truth. And the same way with Jesus, he was full of grace and truth, which is like a bullseye for the enemy. From a spiritual point of view.
Well, they did stone Paul once, and they all went out, raised him from the dead, and came back into town.
Yeah.
I can't remember where that is.
It's someplace around 15, I think, 14 or 15 in Acts. Someplace in there. Because these guys weren't dumb. They knew. They could have told you if he was alive or dead.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that. Well, I'm sure he was probably dead.
I'm absolutely convinced he was dead, and the believers gathered around him, ministered, and he got up. And as Reverend Uranian said the night he taught that, after that, what could they do to him that he hadn't already overcome?
Mm-hmm.
Well, things like this that Monica brings up also brings to mind things like that had happened to prophets of the Hebrew Scriptures, like in one case, and I can't remember who it was. I think it was Elijah. It was either Elijah or Elisha. And I'm thinking it was Elijah, where a king sent troops to go arrest this guy, and a fire came from heaven and consumed him. He sent a second company after him, and it happened again. And he sent a third one. Of course, the captain went to him and said, "Oh, please, please spare me." Things like that. When you think of it from a spiritual point of view, of course, you and I today can can see the spiritual battle going on. Why couldn't Stephen be delivered like that? And I believe it was available. They just didn't know it. And they didn't know they didn't know what they had. That's what I'm thinking, and that's the position I'm going to take until somebody tells me, you're off your rocker. Because
what do you think they would have had to have done had they known?
Well, they had to know what they had. I don't think they knew what they had.
They knew.
Huh?
They knew. Just
okay.
They
well,
knew.
Let's give an example of Paul. They stoned him, but God raised him back up. It's things like that. And Paul, he had a ministry. Jesus commissioned him to carry out this gospel to the Gentiles, and that was his special assignment. And no stoning would stop that. So, and I believe that's what Paul believed, and I believe that's why God raised him back, because he had to get that. He had to fulfill his mission, his assignment. He had to do that.
So Stephen had fulfilled his mission?
I don't know. See, that's something else. I just
Well, it's
there's
like,
details that are left out that would help. So I just don't know. I am thinking because this sacred secret was not known till after the time of Stephen. And that kind of information that we have in the book of Ephesians, you don't find that anywhere. Chapter 6, you don't find that kind of language anywhere in the whole Bible. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. You just don't see that. And I don't think they fully understood it or knew it.
so they didn't. You don't think they understood that they were dealing with people who were demonized, or there were spiritual powers at work.
Yeah.
But they saw people healed, and they saw people raised from the dead, and Christ sent them out and told them that they could cast out devils. So they knew that, right?
Yeah.
And I guess Jesus, it says that Jesus stood up. And I just like, when I hear that or read that, it's like, okay, so he stood up, but Stephen still died.
Yeah.
Well, for whatever reason it was, there was no revelation to raise Stephen.
Either that or they missed it.
Or they missed it. One of
Or
the
they
two.
missed it, yeah. Either that or they missed it.
And the word, though.
Yeah.
Well, can you imagine the things that were going on in people's head, believers? After Stephen was arrested and they put him on trial, I mean, it was probably quite devastating and shocking for the believers.
Right
Because
after.
I'm sure they had a tremendous amount of respect for Stephen. And just listening to him teach in that trial is breathtaking. I don't know. I wished he had, because we need more Stephens. It was a great loss to the church during that time, the death of Stephen. We didn't have Stephen anymore after he died, after he was dead.
Yeah.
And it was
So it was
the
a great
apostle,
loss.
it was Paul who consented to his death too. So there might have been something going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, Saul cast his vote
That's
for
true.
Stephen's death.
And it could be that Stephen's martyrdom
Had an
had a
effect on Paul.
huge effect on the Apostle Paul.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I agree on that one.
You know, really, all we can do is speculate, because the Word doesn't tell us.
It doesn't tell us anything.
It doesn't
And
tell
it's
us
tough.
anything. And so, you know, all you can do is guess.
But we can brainstorm in little sessions like this.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that it's still just, our best thoughts based on what we know.
TBV, to be revealed, or TBR, to be revealed.
I'm just glad to have that there's somebody else thinking like that, Monica. I'm glad, because sometimes I think that stuff like that, and I don't share it because sometimes it sounds way out there in left field,
The only way.
But I
it's the
think
only way
of
to
stuff
get it.
like that.
The only
I
way
do.
to get the answer sometimes, maybe somebody has studied it. Maybe somebody
Yeah.
has insight on it.
And let's face it, Alan, sharing it with us, you're not going to get an immediate, oh, you're nuts. Because we'll consider it.
I had a guy there was he was a branch coordinator at one time, and he went into the Way Corps and then dropped out of the Way Corps. And one of the things he said to me was that he had doubts about God because he was taught that God is light and in him is no darkness at all, and he can't, and so how could he create darkness? And if he created the devil, then he created darkness. So if he created darkness, he can't create something that he isn't. So therefore, he had to have darkness in him, and he couldn't. You see how it cancels itself out?
Yeah.
Well, that's
I
just
don't have
not,
an answer for that either.
And I thought,
well,
that's
free will's involved there.
there's an answer somewhere on that. That's going up on the shelf. There's an answer somewhere for it. I might not have it right now. But then when I, in the
See, the response
Creator,
the response I would have for that is actually in my next teaching, because if you'll remember, I read to you a portion. Where is that? Truth or Tradition? The steps to biblical understanding, whatever that was.
Yeah,
That
23
paragraph
steps.
that I read, you remember that? There are things. The Bible is not addressed to the unbeliever. So, right off the top, if we're going to take the position, well, I'm not going to believe God because he's. It says he's all light, but yet he created darkness and things of that sort. If we're going to approach God with that, well, that means I'm an unbeliever. Okay, I am not going to do that. I am going to, and this is like rock bottom basics. I believe that God exists and that the Bible is God's written word and instruction to us, and I earnestly desire to know the truth. I honestly, earnestly desire to know the truth. I do.
always comes back to that.
Yeah.
Is God
I
who
think-
he says he is or not? And if
I
he
think
is,
Don Colt made a salient point there. There's freedom of will involved in all of this too. Don't forget that. God can't force. God didn't force us to believe. He didn't force the angels to believe. He didn't force Jesus Christ to believe. Jesus Christ could have said, "Hey, I'm out of here." He could have. He didn't, but he could have.
Lucifer did. He said
Lucifer said, "I'm out of here. I want to be the Most High God."
and he was perfect until evil was found in him. It says that somewhere. I can't find it. I was trying to find it here.
So apparently it wasn't. Uh-oh, I'm getting feedback. Gargle feedback.
but I'm enjoying Bob Wassong's teachings. And the little. It's like we're getting there slowly and surely in little pieces, about the beginning of creation and the dragon and all that stuff. And maybe there'll be some answers there. I just know that I believe in God, and I know that the answers are there, whether I have them in this life or not. It doesn't really matter to me.
That's called trusting God.
Because I just,
Also-
I couldn't say anything back to this person, but to me, that's just too bad that you get to that point where it's just like, because if you don't have God, what do you got?
I have a response too towards was it your friend
Mm-hmm.
that was talking about that, as far as if he made the devil and the devil's dark, and then there's darkness in God and everything like that, like just to me, and just when I hear that, this is what I think. So I'm thinking the devil is just such a great example of what happens. Like, okay, God created the free will thing, right? So I think the devil is just a great example of what happens when you choose to be away from God and choose to be against God with that free will, because it will turn you into this. And you can't blame God for giving him the free will in the first place, because he gives everybody the free will. That is what is God, is the gift of free will. And yeah, and so the Satan is just kind of an ultimate example.
Yeah, and adding to that, also adding to that is Romans chapter 9, because when you do turn away from God, your heart just gets harder and harder and harder, and it gives the Pharaoh as the example between the two men of Moses, the example of Moses and the example of Pharaoh, where once God sent the message to him, but he refused, and then after that it just got harder and harder and harder, and apparently that's what happened to well, you guys are calling him Lucifer, and from that last teaching, I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah.
It's the devil, it's Satan, the devil.
Yeah.
His heart just got, and when he turned away, his heart just got harder and harder and harder to a point of no return. So there you go. I agree with that, Chandra. Yeah, that's logical.
This guy's point, though, he was trying to make was that, well, where did evil come from in the first place if God creates everything and he's the Alpha and Omega and above everything? Where did evil come from to exist in the first place that man could ever be evil? And I'm like, he was in the Way Corps. I'm like, all this time and that's never crossed your mind before, and now you're coming up with this, I don't know. I guess I just trust God enough that it
That's part of that perceived as pillars of the church thing too comes in there, because I know people who were in the Way Corps were kind of set on a pedestal, because they were. You thought, oh, they're in the Way Corps, well, they must know the Bible, or they must be spiritual heavies or whatever. And I think that's part of that perception, man's perception, because a lot of them, they didn't know any more than we did. And they had questions, and they didn't pursue their questions, and the questions generate other questions. And if you don't ask, like, what we're doing tonight, then they go unanswered, and then doubt creeps in and all this other, it's just nasty. So.
Can't we compare this to like a parental relationship of our own? Like, yes, maybe I can be powerful enough as my children's mom to keep them in a bubble and like force them to do this and force them to do that, but it's probably not going to end up very well, our relationship. So I mean, but if and so if they end up choosing to go against, if I do it the loving way and they end up choosing to go against my advice or whatever for their own safety's sake, well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, okay, you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. I'm thinking it's like God's caught between a rock and a hard place here. I'm pretty sure he wants to force us to do good, but I'm sure he knows that it's going to make our relationship crap if he does that, because then people are going to be pissed off that he's making us puppets. So it's like, okay, do you want to be a puppet to where he forces you to do everything good and no evil will come from it, or he kind of has to take that chance so that your relationship is real and your choice. It's kind of like, oh, well, I'd rather have it all be good and no evil in the world. And it's like, okay, so you choose to be the puppet then. I guess you just like the puppet.
And be the victim. But Lucifer, I'm going to call him Lucifer for now, was like the angel of light, and he was perfect and beautiful and all this, and where his evil came from or sprouted from was from pride. You know, he was, you know, hey, I'm prettier than you, or look at me, you know, and next thing you know, if he dwells on that long enough, he doesn't need God anymore.
I forget how it's worded there, but the way it's worded, it sounds like he was built up by other angels.
And like,
And he liked it, yeah. The other angels
That's
were.
interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
The other angels, he caused him to rise up with pride. It's approximately how it's said.
Kind of gave him an elevated, I don't know, made him bigger than he really was, so to speak. Kind of like the Trinity does with Jesus, makes him bigger than he really is. And
Or how about people with the Pope? I don't know.
Yeah.
Same thing. Same thing.
There you go.
I mean, what would he do without his hat? I mean, come on. I want a hat like that. No, can't. Only
Big old
I
fish.
get the hat. He's
Big
going
old
only
fish.
big old fishy.
Well, it's not just with the Pope either. You know, Pope is the ultimate example, but they also have like other people, you know, in other churches that are rised up and like oohed and awed upon. So it's kind of like, and I'm pretty sure after a while maybe pride gets to them too. Oh yeah, like, you know, and also people that do the television ministries. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know them. I don't know them personally. I don't know their hearts, but it's a possibility. You know, it's a possibility that, you know, they are rose up to, you know, with all these, oh, you're so great, you're so wonderful, and they probably are. I don't know. I'm not judging them in that. I have no right to judge them in that way, but I'm just saying it's a possibility. Like, you know, because you get caught up in the fame of it all,
Yeah.
and, you know, so you're so great. You're so powerful now. You can do, you know, you can probably say whatever you wanted, and your drones will follow you.
Just
You
like
know?
I was talking about tonight. You go back to John 8 and you'll find it sitting right there.
Yeah. A lot of that was right there in your teaching.
That's what made Apollos such a great man. They showed him the word and he changed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just unheard of. I mean, can you imagine some of the leaders of the Orthodox Christian Church changing?
Being meek enough to hear the word, yeah, from somebody else.
Like, I know they, a lot of them believe certain things, like people are, like some of the things we were mentioning the other day, you know, if the Trinity is so bad or so wrong, why does everybody believe it? Well, how many people read their Bibles? Well, about 3% maybe of all Christians, and they're just following these leaders. And the leaders teach what the followers want to hear. And they were followers once, and they believed what they were taught. And there has to be some place where the loop has to be broken. And the only way to do that is to be meek to the scriptures. And I know a lot of people, their heart is in the right place. They really, truly believe what they believe from the depths of their soul. But like, you know, and they're very sincere, but we all know that sincerity is no guarantee for truth. You know, the old saying goes, with the comb salesman, you know, who sold a 3-tooth comb, he was very sincere. I might have bought it. I wouldn't have needed 3 of them. Or the toothbrush salesman that sold a toothbrush with only a few bristles on
I only had
it. I don't know. I just wish some people that they would be meek enough to give the word and audit the scriptures on a more regular basis and start from scratch every time. But I know I listen to this one radio show, and I really like to listen to it. It's called Exploring the Word. It's on the radio. I really like it. The guys are great. Their hearts are just so big, and they have a lot of good things on there. But there are certain things that they will not change on. They won't touch, and the Trinity is one of them. And they admit that they can't explain it. They admit that it's a mystery, but yet they believe it. And then they accuse someone who doesn't believe it of being a heretic or a heresy or whatever. It's just, but on the other things, they're pretty good on a lot of stuff. It's all right out of the scriptures, but I don't get it.
what is it about that trend?
They just hung up on something, and the going to heaven when you die, you don't really die. Just some of those things, they are in a lockbox. They refuse to review or analyze it or study it from an objective point of view. If there's anything in there that contradicts their previous belief system regarding that particular subject, they don't want to hear it, and they don't want to. They just don't. It goes in one ear and out the other.
That's why I'm in love with the Living Truth Fellowship, just because, I mean, like if there was ever a time that like a disagreement or maybe like another thought would come, or question, I am so happy to know that it would be thought about, like it would be considered, or it would be discussed. It would not be brushed off like it was nothing, or you know what I mean. It would at least be talked about, and and you wouldn't feel like an idiot or stupid or a weirdo for bringing it up, or even I can just remember the first time I would it was in a woman's.
Chandra, you're gargling again.
Okay, so I remember I was in a women's study for the Second Timothy thing, and this women's study brought together women from different churches. So who knows who believed? I don't know, but apparently they all believed, Jesus was God. And so I don't know. Like I remember like one particular moment when I think they found out that I didn't believe that. Like I didn't believe the way they did. And they kind of had like a little gasp, like, like, oh my gosh, they have a criminal at their table, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
Judas is here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like,
oh, I know.
That's sad. That it's like seriously, like, and the sad thing is, I wasn't even, it's not like I was causing trouble. It's not like I was even asking any questions leading up to that. I was causing no trouble at all. It was just, it happened to come up, and somehow like, you don't believe Jesus is God? And I was like, and I just kind of smiled, and I'm like, I'm sorry, no, that's not what I see in the Bible. So, and I was just really, kind of, and they were just like,
There are ministries out there that teach that not believing that Jesus is God is devilish.
Right. Yeah.
And
Like
it's
Antichrist.
a fear thing because, right, you hear all the teachings about the Antichrist, especially in this day and time with all the things that are going on. The Antichrist is coming, the end is near and all that. And there will be false prophets and all this kind of thing. So there's a lot of fear being put in people's minds of believing anything that's off traditional belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do, then you could be getting tangled up with one of these false prophets. That's what I get from my family. I'm a heretic because I don't believe that Jesus Christ is God. They can't prove to me. They can't show me anything. But I'm the heretic because I don't believe like everybody else. And if there's comfort for them to go along with everybody else and believe that because that's tradition. That's what everybody's always believed from the time of the apostles. It goes back to that. So if you're outside the box, then you're not born again. And you could be, and I could be in danger listening to anything that you tell me. You could lead me astray. So no, go away.
First John 4:2 is a good one to come back with. And it says, when people say, you don't believe in, that Jesus is God. In 1 John 4:2 it says, hereby know ye the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is of God. I believe that. I believe he came in the flesh. It doesn't say God came in the flesh. It says the Son of God came in the flesh.
Yeah,
Jesus
but they're
Christ.
probably not going to listen to her though.
No, they don't.
Well,
They
yeah,
They won't.
they can't tell me. They can't tell me that I'm of the devil because it says right here, and it says in another place that.
I'm sorry, Don,
Well, that's all right.
because I've been told that many times. It was screamed at me from this far away.
You're the devil. Mhm. So, anyways, and then in 2 John 1:7, for many deceivers are entered into the world who confess not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an antichrist. I believe he came in the flesh. How can you call me an antichrist? So they're full of crap. they say, yeah. So they say, you don't believe Jesus is God? You mean you believe he's not the Son of God? I don't know. It's just it's like chasing it. It's like a dog chasing its tail. It's you
All
give
they
him
do is-
you give him a genuine, thought-filled, scripture reference explanation of something, and they just shove it under the rug and throw out, well, what about this? And then you go to the next verse, and then you do that about 15 times, and you end up right back where you started. It's like, it's crazy.
What you almost have to do is grab them take the rope off of your neck and stick it around theirs and give it a good pull and say, no, you answer my question first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Give me the verse where it says God the Son, and I'll believe it.
Absolutely.
One verse, that's all I ask you for. One verse where he's called God the Son, I will believe it.
There you go.
And I've even said, now, if this is such an important point in salvation and God wants everybody to be saved, don't you think he would have made a big deal out of people knowing this?
Mm-hmm.
What do they say to that?
Well,
He does. He does.
Go right back
They
to first.
They give you the John 1:1, chapter and all the other little verses. And I said, well,
and they jump to verse 14, and then they're done.
And in Romans, 10:9 and 10, you confess that Jesus is your Lord. You don't confess that Jesus is God the Son.
Right. Right. That's what I do. I do the Romans 10:9 thing. Like, I'll just be like, this is what it says for me to be saved. That's what I've done. So I'm saved. There you go. I'm sorry. And nobody's ever said anything beyond that. You know what I mean? It's like if they want to continue to have a Bible study from there, that's great. But I don't know. At least they don't do that whole thing against me anymore. If they know that I do the Romans 10:9 thing, and if they know that I love Jesus, because a lot of them will just think like, what I don't know what they think as far as.
Another thing you can do is whip out the resurrection. Do you believe Jesus was dead for 3 days and 3 nights, and then God raised him from the dead? Half of them will say no.
God was dead. No, just a part of God was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1/3 with that modern math.
or who raised Jesus from the dead? They like that one.
He raised
himself.
Yeah, I don't even. That boggles my mind. I don't even want it, because then obviously it goes into just take it on faith crap.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as that's.
Exactly.
I try not to get into conversations that I try not to. I know it's kind of inevitable when you get into that subject, but but the ones that like go there the quickest, like I'm just kind of like I try to avoid those if I can. And
Yeah, it's a great mystery, and we've got to take it on faith, brother.
It's that saying, a man convinced of his own will is of the same opinion still.
There you go.
And so when you start going down that road, it's like, okay, well, God bless you. You have a good day.
Yeah, it's like John Lynn said once. He says, give them an hors d'oeuvre and see what they do with it. If they eat it and they like it, then give them another one. And then if they like that, then maybe they're going to want more. But if they depending on how they handle one or two questions, you know where it's all going to end up, and they're going to end up either wanting more, or they're going to be one of those who are convinced against his will. And,
Yeah.
I have a really unfortunately I don't get to talk to her much anymore or whatnot, but still I have this really good friend that I believe she's Trinitarian. I'm not sure, but she seems to be one of those Christians that maybe don't do a lot of Bible study. So, she's kind of just whatever. She's a very open-minded person, though, right? So she was nice enough to, like, hear my frustrations, like how people are so mean to me because she was sensing that I was scared to talk to her about it because I didn't want her to get mad at me or like not talk to me anymore. So, but when I did express my frustrations to her, she was very wise, and she gave me a new perspective on it as far as why people get so irate when you talk to them about this kind of stuff. Like, they're not even willing to listen to you preach one sentence. And the way she put it was, like, well, Chandra, this thing that you're talking about, for some people, like, this is their whole entire world, and you are blowing their world apart. Some people just cannot handle it. You are like yanking the rug out from under their feet, and you're beating them with it like that. That's how it feels for them. And so so that hors d'oeuvre thing is maybe less. It's just
less threatening.
There's less of a chance of it, blowing them up completely, at least. And if anything, the hors d'oeuvre is like for us too, I would think, because when you give them an hors d'oeuvre, you're seeing how they react to it to see if they're even ready to talk about more. So you don't even have to deal with extra frustration for yourself. Like, that's spiritually draining. I don't want to deal with that if I don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? This reminds me of that Don taught one night about Eli Lamana Shabachthani. And when we came to him with the word, he didn't flinch. He didn't, start screaming at us that we were born again of the seed of the serpent. He listened and considered, and went on to work it himself. And I'll admit that's what I had to do too. When I first, started getting involved with TLTF, and oh, you mean that's not what it says in the Word? Okay, let me look at this. And unless you can have that, unless you've got somebody with that type of an attitude, you're just throwing meatballs and hitting them on the head.
Yeah.
Being meek means being teachable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean to throw logic out the window.
Correct.
Being meek and wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gave us a mind for a reason.
That's right.
Wise as serpents, harmless as doves.
There you go. Yeah.
When I lived up in Washington, and I had quite a few Bible studies with the minister there, or with the pastor there, and I gave him a copy of the One God, One Lord book. I haven't gotten an update from him to see how he's doing. But yeah, I was intimidated at first because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like he's a pastor, and he's spent like so many more years, being educated than me. So, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? The truth is the truth. So I don't care how much more educated he is than me. I'm just gonna I'm not gonna be afraid. If I'm the only person that ends up having this type of a study with him, then there you have it. I'm blessed. I'm honored to be the one that he was open-minded in having a Bible study like that with, right?
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a scholar, it's like, you know what? This is how I plant the seed for him. And it was very lovely. It was very lovely. He was like one of the only pastors.
Oh, you're breaking up again. Your mic.
It's like the road sign. You want to go to Disney World, and you end up seeing the sign that says Denver, 100 miles, and you're going, holy crap. Or you'll either say, oh crap, I got to turn around, or you'll say, I'm not believing that sign. There's no way that sign can be right.
I'm heading in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. It's a guy thing, I guess.
It's a guy.
Well, speaking of guy things, it's 10:55, 5 minutes to 11. I know Don's got to work in the morning.
Yeah.
Me too.
Monica, right? And Chandra's got kids to take care of, and
I gotta go play in the mud tomorrow.
Yeah.
Woo!
I need to take some pictures of that, show you guys what I'm doing. But I don't have somebody to take the picture of me while I'm doing it.
Yeah, you need one of them selfie sticks.
or a friend with a camera.
A really long selfie stick.
Camera with the timer.
Yeah.
Tripod.
It's not the same.
Yeah, tomorrow I'll try to get the thing of it is I'm kind of concerned I might slip and fall with the camera in my hand, but I'll try to remember to get the camera and take a picture of the area, and I'd probably have to explain what I'm doing, but I've told you guys about this, hadn't I? I'm actually building a creek.
Oh,
Anyway,
no.
it's interesting how I'm doing it, but I won't spend the next half hour keeping you guys awake talking about it. I'll save that for another time.
Save it for the pictures.
Yeah, save it for the picture. Picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Yeah. If I can figure out how to do it, I'll post it on Facebook. All right, you guys. God bless. It's been a great
Everybody wave
fellowship.
goodbye.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Wave goodbye, everybody.